right, everyone, welcome in. Good evening, and welcome to our first ever Coaches Takeout Talk. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Isaac Camelli, and I'm one of the members of the Athletic Communications team here in the CSU Bakersfield Athletics Department. Tonight, I'm going to be serving as the MC for our Q&A session with Giovana and Melo. Before we get any further, on behalf of the entire Roadrunner family, I want to say a huge thank you to Tembler Brewing Company for supporting us in this event. We hope that all of you had a chance to go out and pick up some food from Tembler, which is one of our favorite local restaurants. And tonight they agreed to donate a portion of their sales to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. If you haven't been to Tembler recently, make sure to get over there and try their Taste of Tembler deal, which is a family meal for 4 people for just $50. And of course, they have a great lineup of award-winning local craft beers. Once again, thank you so much to Tembler Brewing Company for helping us provide scholarships for our amazing student athletes. It looks like we have a special guest in the gallery tonight with us, CSU Bakersfield's very own president, Dr. Lynette Zalesny. We are very thankful for her leadership and guidance of the entire university during these times. If you missed it, Dr. Zalesny recently appeared on CNN discussing the state of the CSU system while also spotlighting CSUB on the national stage. Dr. Zalesny, thank you again for being here tonight.
Join in tonight with our runner athletic community, and thank you for standing strong. I'm always here to support our scholar athletes, and in particular our coach tonight, who's very, very special to me. Coach, I'm here with you in spirit. Thanks so much for being the inaugural speaker on this particular series. And I hope all of you are safe and well, thinking of your families, and CSUB, we are strong. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much. So as we move forward, we are very excited to be able to bring this Coaches Takeout Talk to your homes, even during this time of quarantine. Tonight, we are privileged to hear from a talented and passionate member of the CSUB coaching staff, Giovana Melo, Director of Volleyball for the Runners. But before we do that, allow me to go over a bit of housekeeping that will allow you all to interact with us and will also help you have the best viewing experience. First off, after we have talked with Coach Melo for a little while, we will then move into a Q&A session where our viewers will be able to ask questions. Start thinking of a question now that you might want to ask, and when you think of one, send it to me, Isaac Camelli, in the chat messaging system here on Zoom. To do that, locate and click on the chat icon, make sure the To section says My Name, type in your question, and hit send. When we get to that portion of our evening, I'll go through the viewer questions, ask them to coach myself, and we may even open up for viewers to ask their questions live. The last bit of housekeeping I have is a recommendation. If you have your Zoom meeting in gallery view, you might want to switch over to speaker view. We recommend this as it will give you the best viewing experience, but feel free to roam around the gallery as you like. Alrighty then, now that we have all those logistics squared away, it's time to get to the main event. To the woman of the hour, CSUB's Director of Volleyball is Giovana Melo. She is finishing up her 6th year at the helm of the program. During her tenure at CSUB, Coach Melo has led her squad to a pair of Western Athletic Conference tournament titles as her runners became the first CSUB team at the Division I level to appear in the NCAA tournament twice. Giovana, welcome to our first ever Coaches Takeout Talk.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So Coach Melo, let's jump right in with our first question. This one's coming from me. With the current crisis our world is facing, it's impossible to talk about you or your volleyball program without talking about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The sports world began shutting down in early March, and that really affected people across the world, including your beach volleyball team, which was right in the middle of its season. How hard was it to have to tell the ladies on your team that the season was over?
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. I remember they were in the middle of practice when we had the final decision that we had to shut down, and I walked to practice and had a conversation with Cesar, or beach head coach, and we said we have to tell them, and we pulled them aside once practice was over and had a conversation. Of course, they were devastated, but I think that we have grew in a process of becoming better together throughout this, everything that it's happening. We've really helped them focus on the culture of our program and themselves becoming better and during this difficult time. And I think that we have done a pretty good job doing that.
That's great. Yeah. And we'll get back to what you and your team are doing during this time in just a little bit. But I want to switch focus for just a second to you personally. I know that during this quarantine time, you're spending a lot more time at home than normal. You're usually traveling for matches or traveling for recruiting. So I assume you're probably getting a ton of extra quality time with your daughter and your wife. So these days, what does a normal day look like for you and your family?
I think the quality time has definitely been with my daughter. The quality time has not been as much with my wife because she is still working. She's a physician assistant, so she's an essential worker who has been working through this process and has done a lot to help us stay safe and everyone else. So I'm thankful for her and for what she's doing right now. But I am very happy to have been able to spend the time with my daughter that I normally don't get. For many of you that are in this call, you probably don't know, but my daughter was diagnosed with a rare disease this last season. During season, it was actually when it happened. And she requires a lot of therapy, requires a lot of one-on-one things that she needs to get better. And I think this time has been a time that I'm being very thankful to be with her and help her grow through that process. And at the same time, working still and trying to find, the common balance between this is the time to work, this is the time that I need to spend with her. So we have a little routine going in our house that I start before my wife goes, and then once she goes, I have a little time with my daughter. Then I get a little bit of a time once she has some sort of therapy that someone comes in, and then I work for a little bit of that time. And some of the calls are even with her, and I'm just wearing my earbuds and I just have to listen and pay attention and let her play a little bit with her toys. But then there is the part that once my wife gets home, which her hours have been cut short as well. So then that's the time that I really focus on the rest of my work, that I really take a good part of it at this time right now, once she's putting her to bed, and I focus on the work that I have to do. But I have truly enjoyed, I'm thankful for this time. So I'm seeing this as a positive for me and my family as we have been working through this together.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear that this time has been a good thing for you and your family. And I don't think you mentioned it, so would you say your daughter's name for those watching?
Yeah, Eva Marie Melo Lacey.
Yeah, and she's a beautiful little girl. I've enjoyed seeing her at volleyball matches and out at the beach volleyball courts. And you mentioned it already, but aside from being at home with your family, now that you're in quarantine and working from home, what does a normal work day look like for you, and how is it different these days?
Yeah, I think the difference is, the type of conversations that we're having are through this and Zoom calls and a lot of those. And I was definitely not used to doing all of this video and this social media stuff that we're also spending a lot of time doing for our team and recruiting and with the girls. So we have spent a lot of time on the computer, which I think I'm more of a hands-on kind of coach, and then being in practice and having those conversations face-to-face and one-on-one. And I think that has been a little bit of the change for me. The routine definitely changed being at home, but we were able to create, a routine in our home and get as much quality as I can with the work that we're doing, which is, it's been fun to do. It's been a little different for me and our coaching staff, and even for the girls. But I think we have enjoyed this time just learning, for me, a little bit more even about technology.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a bit of a transition for me as well. Even as someone who works primarily in communications with computers, it's still been a little bit tricky. I'm not used to seeing my face so often. I kind of can't wait till we go back in that regard. In terms of, let's talk about social media for a second here, because it's such a huge part of our world, especially now that everybody's working from home. It's even more important. And in the athletics world, it's extremely crucial in terms of recruiting and getting information out there. And I honestly think that your volleyball program is one of the strongest in our athletics department when it comes to social media. You guys have been doing some great things with your social media. Can you tell, and also privately online too, but can you tell our viewers about some of the great things you guys have been doing?
Yeah. we started doing some first right away. We kind of let the girls take over our Instagram and show everyone what their life was like during quarantine. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed that. And we enjoyed that, even seeing a little bit of what it was like at their own home during this time. And that was super fun. Then after that, we started doing some lives, which Cesar, my assistant, has been running that. And we have had a lot of different people. We have done alumni, we have done our own staff with Mac and Stevie. We've had different, I did one, but with Cesar on his personal instead of in the one on CSUB volleyball. We have really enjoyed doing that and getting to know different people. And we spent a little time connecting with our alumni. We got Holly McPeak as well for beach volleyball, and that was super fun to listen to her speak. And plus we have spent a little bit more time just really focusing on the graphics, which we're very thankful for you. You spend a lot of time doing that for us. I feel like every single week we're like, we need to post this, we need to post this. But I think it has created an opportunity for us to showcase a little bit more of who we are as people, and what our program is all about. And so we have showcased the girls, we have showcased ourselves, we have just really put ourselves out there. And I think that it has helped also for recruiting, because I think it's such a big important thing right now to get them. They are on social media constantly, and I think getting them to understand what our program is like through social media has been a super exciting thing for us. So we've really spent a lot of time doing that, and every week we have something different. Stevie and Mac have sat down with you and talked about certain things that we do on each day of the week, and we have that plan for each day of the week, and that everybody looks forward to it in those days on what we are getting and what we're doing. So that has been pretty exciting on the social media part of things. And then on Zoom calls, we have really spent the time on Zoom calls talking and figuring it out to make it better, our culture. Going into the Big West, we truly believe that that's something that we needed to improve. And even though we have a pretty good culture right now, we think that we need to take a bigger step. And we then started asking different people, and we were very excited that we were able to get a lot of different people on Zoom calls. But the two biggest ones, I think, were Karch Cry from USA Volleyball, the national team coach, and then we got John Gordon, which we were super excited to get. And the girls were really, really they were not just excited, but they were motivated. And I thought that was so cool to see. After the call, they would message us and saying, thank you, this was a great opportunity. They're taking it, and they're really going forward to it. Shelly, who was here on the call, has helped us a lot throughout the culture, helping our culture of our program get better, and through this process too. So we've had many Zoom calls with Shelly, and she sometimes is like, gee, we need to take a break with the Zoom calls. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, we have I think spent the time to make our program better, and every single thing that we have done, our coaching staff has been devoted for our program in this time, and to try to make it better and getting ready for the Big West.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that. Personally, I really enjoyed following along with your team and seeing them, especially the Instagram takeovers that the girls did. I don't get to see them in their personal lives very often. To see them be silly and have fun was really fun for me. For our fans at home, if you're interested in following our volleyball program on social media, you can search on any social media platform for CSUB_volleyball, and you'll be able to keep up with the great things that they're doing over there. So now at this time, now that we're a few questions in, we would like to open up, and I do see that we have a couple of viewer questions so far. If you haven't sent in a question and you would like to so far, feel free to send me a private message, and we'll be happy to get to that in a little bit. But let's start with the two that we have so far. The first one comes from Shelly Carlin, who you mentioned already is a huge supporter of CSUB athletics, especially a big proponent for women's sports. And we're so thankful for all the support that she's given us. But her question to you, Giovana, is what has surprised you most about how your team has reacted to the challenge of our current situation?
I think of how mentally they changed how they were thinking of the positivity. I think that was the biggest thing that I saw. We had, I think this past season, with a lot of things that went on in our program, I think we had a tendency to be a little bit negative. And then during that beach season, we read one of John Gordon's book and decided, okay, as coaching staff, we needed to be different. And for the culture of the program, we needed to be different. And Cesar and Stevie did that, and we saw a big change. And then going into this, just the way they tackled it right away of, okay, obviously we were meeting and having conversations with them, but they said as soon as they started reading that book, we just saw that mentality change of them saying, we need to be better for each other, we need to help this program get better. And their focus became about that. And when I was having little conversations with them, because we were calling them and FaceTiming them a little bit more, they were talking about how in a workout they were thinking, okay, there's no complaining here, we need to be better, we need to be positive. I could be one of the people that have this COVID-19 and I'm not, and I'm healthy, and I'm going to work harder. And I think that it really impressed me, because their mentality was something that we talked about as coaching staff, that needed to be better and needed to be more positive, and for them as players as well. And I think that was something that I was super excited to see, and I'm excited to see the progress that they have made so far in just such a short period of time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it really is remarkable how much the power of positive thinking can make a difference on you yourself, and then that starts to spread out to your teammates, your coaches, your friends, your family, etc. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that. The next question we have comes from GS Kincaid, and she has asked, how has player eligibility been impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that obviously, with the beach program, and for us, because we are a true sport still, that our players play indoor and play beach, we only have, a few players who are beach only. And scholarships are obviously a big thing. And I think that when you have a player who plays in the fall and then comes in the spring and plays in the spring, especially for the seniors, if there is not another opportunity, even though they're capable of coming back because they can get their year back, they don't have that year anymore because of, one, scholarship. I mean, they could come back, but they wouldn't have scholarship. And two, because if they're already planned to graduate, and yes, maybe they could start a master's, but for example, half our senior that is from Brazil, that's a lot of money for her to come back just to play 1 year of beach, and that's a difficult thing. So I think it has affected especially the seniors, and then we'll see how it will affect the ones that can get their year back. But then again, for example, if a scholarship has already been offered for a kid coming in 2021, and that player is a junior and graduating, then we don't have that scholarship. And so even though they might want to, a junior in our program might want to have another year, they won't be able to, because unless they're paying for it. So I think the money part is going to affect and what year they were in the program. And for us with beach and indoor, there's a difference there. If you only beach player, it obviously, and have that scholarship for that, then that's different. But for us, the majority of the money and the players come from the indoor, so it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, and when you talk about the money and it all comes down to scholarship dollars, that's one of the big reasons that we're doing this, and again, why we're so thankful for Tembler for partnering with us. And can you talk about sort of the scholarship aspect, and what do those scholarship dollars mean specifically to your student athletes?
Yeah, I think it means so much. I mean, I can speak as a coach, I can speak as a former student athlete. I think they wouldn't have the opportunity that they do to play sports and earn a degree at such an amazing institution, and what they get as a student athlete, even for the job that they will have eventually is pretty influential. So I think every dollar matters. And even though we are very thankful to be, one of the sports that it's fully funded, but at the same time, there is always, for us, we have international players that we're always trying to get, and that's a little bit more expensive. We are now trying to bring a couple out of state kids, and that's because of going in the Big West and where we are in California. So that's a little bit more money. So any dollar amount of scholarship is so important for each sport, and for volleyball as well. And then we have beach volleyball that for us also now are trying to get players that can compete a little bit in a higher level in the Big West, and get better with that program. Even though we're kind of one unit, we can be getting better with the beach program by getting players and getting scholarships in that direction too. So I think scholarship means so much for each one of our athletes. And, I know that they speak so much about it when they talk about, when they speak, even for the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund, every single time that you hear them talk, there's so much of that they bring when talking about it. And you see some of them even get emotional, because I don't think some of them would have the opportunity to get a scholarship or play sports and go to school if it wasn't for what they're receiving right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for giving that insight to us about the minds of the student athletes and how their scholarships impact their lives. Appreciate that a lot. And you mentioned it, but you yourself were a scholar athlete. If people can't tell by your accent, you are a Brazilian, yes. Can you kind of tell us how the process went getting from Brazil to college athletics in the United States? And I know there was a couple stops in there. So could you tell a little bit about your story?
Yeah. So I was going to say I'm from New York. My accent can kind of go from, no, but I did come from Brazil. I went straight from Brazil to a junior college, a 2-year college in Nebraska. And I didn't speak any English. So, zero English. I learned everything that I learned at first in Nebraska at my 2-year college. At the time, they did not have English as second language, which now you see in universities and 2-year colleges have that as well. And we have it here, but we did not have that program. So I was put directly into regular classes, and I didn't understand much of what was going on half of the time. But I did come because of 2 of my former teammates at the time, but also from Brazil, that we played in club together. They were the ones who recommended me come, and then I came after them. And then in those 2 years is when I learned, I would say, most of my English just by doing it and putting myself out there. I think that was the biggest thing. I didn't care about making mistakes. I didn't care about people making fun of me. I just tried to speak. And I had a roommate who was American, and I tried, I remember sometimes it would take us 2 hours to say one sentence in the very first month that I was there, but I was with my dictionary. Okay, I'm trying to say this. And I remember, to this day, as if it was yesterday. And then from there, I transferred to Arizona State to play volleyball, and then continue get a bachelor's degree. And then I tore my ACL on my senior year, so I had an opportunity, and I got that medical year back, so I had an opportunity to play again. And with that, I was offered to be a grad assistant after that happened, and I saw, I think, the game from a different perspective. I think my goal when I first started, when I first came here, my goal was to go back to Brazil and play professional. That's what I thought I would do, but after I saw and had an opportunity, I was very lucky to have mentors and people around me who really helped me grow. And I think that from going from that junior college to a Division I school, finishing my bachelor's and then getting my master's, and all of that I did in a scholarship. So I'm very thankful for scholarships, and I'm very thankful to be here today because I had a scholarship. Otherwise, I would have never had this opportunity. And so from graduating from my master's at Arizona State, I went back. I was invited to go back to the junior college to then become a head coach. And that's when obviously everything started for me as a head coach. And then we were pretty successful while I was there. But the coach before me was actually the one that coached me. And they had won a national championship before I went back. So I learned a lot from him. And when I got back, then we were able to win. I was there for 6 years, and I was able to win a championship there as well. And then that's when I got hired here at CSUB, and I've been here since.
That is quite the journey, but we're glad you're here in Bakersfield. I know Bakersfield, Brazil, it's not that different,
right? Not at all.
So I know you would never say it, but one of the questions I did want to ask you relates to your transition from the community college level into the Division I world. And for the fans at home who are not familiar with Coach G's prowess at the Western Nebraska Community College, in 6 years there, her teams posted a 262-20 win-loss record, and her Cougars won the 2010 Junior College National Championship. So she definitely had the accolades coming to CSUB. And then in 2014, your first year here, you led our volleyball team to their first ever NCAA tournament appearance with the WAC tournament title championship. So obviously the transition went pretty well for you, but can you tell us about that transition from the junior college level to the Division I level? How did that go for you, and what were the differences?
I think because I played in that Division I level and I was there for a little bit as a grad assistant, I knew going into a junior college, I wanted to train my athletes to be ready to go to a Division I school. And that I started from the beginning when I was there. I wanted the culture there to be good, and I wanted to make sure that they understood what they were going to get, what it was going to be like being at a Division I school. So I feel like I trained them, even though for those 2 years I was already training them to be prepared for it. So when I made that transition, for me, I think it was more in, not necessarily in anything else, but the recruiting had to be different. And obviously you're now getting players that are staying with you for 4 years, and you have to get into a different caliber of, and I learned by making a lot of mistakes too. I thought, okay, because we have I was a junior college coach, I can go get all this junior college players and we're going to be good. And it was not the case, not by any, obviously I'm biased and I came from a junior college, but I think that if depending on the transition that they are having and the training that they're having after someone comes from a junior college and has only 2 years to learn a different system and something different, a different culture, it's very hard to adapt. And it's very hard to train them in a short period of time. And I didn't even think of that when I was at junior college, because that's all I knew. So once I got here and having to train them for the 4 years was obviously something that happened that was good, that I was excited about, because then I could train them. But the recruiting part had to be different, and the caliber of kids that you're trying to get had to be different. I think the comparison also was that I was in a small junior college in a small town. And I was able to, I was getting players that were either not qualifying or some that had good grades, but were looking for something small. And then coming in here, it was not that Bakersfield is small, but it's small in comparison to the rest of California. And so that part was somewhat similar in a way of, okay, the type of kids that I need to get here are different. I need to go into, a different perspective, seeing the recruiting process. So I think there was a lot of learning in this last 6 years by making mistakes, but also by just kind of continuing that culture that I had and knowing what I had done at a Division I level, that needed to just be the same from when I played to when now I was coaching.
Well, now that we've talked about the differences between the junior college level and the Division I level, we actually have another question in the chat related to that. Someone asked, speaking of the Big West, which you mentioned earlier, what do you see as the biggest differences in the Big West versus the WAC? Whether that be competition, obviously travel is a big difference. What do you see there?
Yeah, the two big things for me are definitely the travel, which will be much lighter for our athletes and their student athlete experience. I think academically it will be very helpful for them to not have to miss as many classes, but we've been very thankful at CSUB to be able to have the support system that we do. And then definitely the competition level, we are taking a whole different step in the ladder, going from the WAC to the Big West. Just this last year, the Big West had 3 teams that made it to the NCAA, and then 3 more teams who made it to the NIVC, which is, a different institution doing the second level of competition after playing in the conference. So I think we're and the WAC only took one. So I think that it's a whole different level that we have to get to, and we're just really excited to be a part of that and excited to take that step.
What about recruiting differences? Are you going after a different pool of student athletes now, or do you feel that you have access to a larger pool, or how has that changed?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at different type of caliber kids, a little bit more physical, and looking at we have to go a little bit outside of California just in the start of this, because the outside of California kids want to come to California to play volleyball in California, and the California kids right now want to play in the bigger schools. And I think to get competitive, first to get to the Big West will help, because we have been getting looks that we didn't get before going and being in the WAC. And then second, be competitive in that conference. And then I think that will help us get the California kids to want to stay here and close and come to Bakersfield. And then that would be, that's definitely my goal and my mission, to go get more California kids to want to stay here, but actually want to come to Bakersfield. I think that there is this view of Bakersfield that it's not, when you have conversations with recruits, it's not at all what it is. But I think it's just because they have never seen it, have never visited. And once they visit, they're actually like, whoa, this is much different than I thought it was, or what people say it is. So I think it's just getting the interest and getting them to come, and that is going to come with time, and we're being patient, but we're definitely hitting a whole different level of recruiting the different type of kids, more physical. That's what we need.
Yeah. We're all looking forward to seeing you and your team and what's going to look like in the years to come as you move into the Big West. And I got a chat message here from one of your assistant coaches, Mackenzie Westfall, who says that she is so excited, which is definitely Mackenzie kind of energy. And it definitely is how we're feeling too. So I just got another question in from GS Kincaid. And so she's asked, in recruiting, what are the big selling points about CSUB that attracts new recruits?
Definitely the family. That's the first thing that we talk about. I think that atmosphere is not something that you can get anywhere. That feeling, in the athletic department, that everyone is together and wanting the same things. When they have conversations around the athletic department with people on campus, with everybody around, that even in Bakersfield, around on the community, they just see that there is a family atmosphere here, and they get really excited about it. And truthfully, that's what we sell. There is, in comparison to many bigger Division I schools, when we're going after these athletes, if you look at facilities, I am always very honest. I always say, facilities are not going to make a difference. What is going to definitely make a difference is who around you, the type of kids that are around you, and the type of coaches and people that are around you. Once I heard, when I was getting recruited, if you were to get hurt, and unfortunately not that anybody wants to get hurt, but if you were to get hurt, where would you pick to go play volleyball? Because you have to think that if the sport is not there, would you want to be surrounded by people that really care for you and really want the best for you? And honestly, then I ended up getting hurt, and I have that in the back of my mind every time when we are talking with recruits and recruiting, because it's true. You want people around you that are like family and that care more about you than just X's and O's and what you're doing on the court. And I think that that's not just something that we talk about, but I think that they feel and that they hear from the girls, and it just really can help us. And that's the biggest selling point for us, and it's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have student athletes coming from across the country or even across the world, like Rafa Bonifacio coming from Brazil, Hanna Makinova, from Serbia or Czech Republic, I can't remember. Czech Republic, Czech. Right? When they're thousands of miles away from home and something does happen, whether it be an injury or a breakup or a bad
Mhm.
grade, it's so important to have that family support system. And you and your staff do such a great job building that culture into your program.
Thank you.
So we still do have a little bit more time. If anybody else would like to submit any more questions in the chat, feel free to do so. But Coach, another question I had for you was more of a request, I guess. I'd like to mention one of your student athletes who recently has graduated and used all of her eligibility, Allie Barber. A lot of fans probably know Allie Barber by name and have seen her as a member of the team for the past few years, but probably most of them don't know really her story and some of the things that she's overcome and just the journey that she's taken to get to where she is today and through your program. Do you think you could tell them a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Ali was someone who started here with us as a walk-on, and not just that, but when she first started, it was my first year here, and we after that first year that we started the recruiting, we started having conversations, and she was not very. She's athletic, but she wasn't, the most talented volleyball player out there. But she really just had this passion that you could tell that she wanted something. You could see that in her, and she had leadership ability. She had the ability to have a conversation with you as almost as if she was 22 years old and she's just 18. So you could see that in her right away. But then Ali has worked. She had a season that she got hurt and she couldn't. We first said, for sure you're going to redshirt and you're going to train and you're going to get better, and our focus with her was the physical part, is stronger. And then when she was doing that, she came back, was stronger, was ready to start a season, and then she got hurt and then lost that year being hurt. And so went through that process twice, back to back in a year. And I think that in those 2 years that she matured a lot, learned a lot from our program, learned from the people that were in front of her, the leaders that were in front of her, and she would put in a lot of work. And she would come in my office every single time and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to play? What do I need to do to get better? And when I remember, as if it was yesterday, I remember having this conversation with her and saying, Ali, when you start focusing on the process and focusing on getting better and not focusing on just wanting to be a starter or wanting to get a scholarship or wanting something that it's an end goal, when you just focus on a process to continue to help our program get better and continue to make yourself better as a consequence, you will get better and the program will get better and things will happen for you. Trust me. And so obviously years went by, and this past year was when we were able to present her with a scholarship after her working really hard to get better as a player, physically and mentally, and as a leader in our program. And that is right there why that moment and that meeting with her right there was why I coach volleyball. Just seeing the tears in her face when we offered her a scholarship is priceless. In seeing how much she had put in, and after buying in and saying, yes, I need to focus on this process. And even her, if you listen to her talk, she talks about how she says, once I bought in and once I did the things that I needed to do just to enjoy playing, I became a much better person, much better player. So she's definitely an example of someone who worked really hard and bought into the things that we were doing and the values that we have in our program, and consequently, got a scholarship and played much more in games. She didn't start, and that was the thing. She didn't care. She just had a role, and she knew that role, and she actively did that role and took really responsibility for it. And then she decided that she was a SAC representative for a couple of years, but then she decided that she wanted to be the president once she had that opportunity to do that. And she came to the office and said, I have an opportunity to be the president. I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference for the WAC. I want to have a voice. And I was, pumped to see her wanting to do that, and so proud of what she had done in just I mean, seeing her here as a freshman and seeing her now, you don't even say that it's the same person. But that's the excitement for me to be a coach, is just to make a difference in their lives and help them get to that, and seeing them succeed. And now she's, working at Mission Bank and doing so well. And they're super excited to have her. Every single time I talk with someone at Mission Bank, they say how awesome she's doing. So that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. Having been here for the whole time that Ali has been here at CSUB, seeing her transformation, it's really awesome to see where she's come from and where she's gotten to. And we're, like a lot of your volleyball alumni that you have from your program, they're doing great things now. We're excited to see where she goes from here too. We did get another question come in, and somebody has asked, what role do local Bakersfield high schools play in your recruiting strategy?
Honestly, we look at them just as much as we look at everybody else. We do go watch a lot of high school around here, and we do get a lot of emails. I think that the thing that a lot of that I don't know if it's a misconception, but there is that talk that we don't recruit Bakersfield kids, and that's definitely not true. We look at all of them. I just think that the level that we are wanting to go and that we need to go, sometimes the type of athlete that we want to help make our program better, those athletes unfortunately choose to not stay in Bakersfield. And that's what we want to change. That's the goal that we have to change in a community, is that the athletes that can make a difference in our program want to stay in here. Once we're in a Big West and we're successful in a Big West, that's one of my goals, to have more athletes from Bakersfield. But if you look and you see all the players that have gone in bigger schools from Bakersfield, a lot of them have come back, and a lot of them have been very successful here after coming back. Not all of them, but we have had at least 3 or 4 athletes more that have left and then came back because they just missed it, and then realized, okay, this program can and is a good program to play for. And I think, I understand, because again, like I said, I was at a junior college where a lot of the athletes wanted to leave and and I don't think necessarily sometimes it's about the volleyball. It's about experiencing something different than what they're used to here in this, this smaller town that it's not really small, but for them it is, if they've lived and grew up here. And so I understand that. I just want to change that, because I do want, it's like, because I was in Nebraska, I saw, and my wife is from Nebraska, and she's like a diehard Nebraska fan. And I want that. I want the kids there from Nebraska, the ones that are in Nebraska wanting to play for University of Nebraska. That's what I want here. I want the kids from Bakersfield want to play for Cal State University Bakersfield. I want that. That's my goal, but it's gonna take a little while, and it's okay. We just keep trying to get them until 1 or 2 of them say yes, and then I think it'll make a difference.
Yeah, and it's been great to see some of those come back, like you've mentioned. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Emily Lopes was one of those that left, wanted to get out of town, but then missed Bakersfield, came back, and then she became one of the best liberos in our program's Division I history.
Yes. Haley Roberts is another one that helped us win a championship. They both have. And
absolutely. Haley Roberts, a CSUB Division I single season blocks record holder. Actually, no, I think Brooke Boyso took that back over.
Okay.
I apologize to Brooke. We have another question here. This one comes straight from home from one of your closest assistants, Cesar Vinacci, who is also from Brazil, but he wants to know what you miss most about Brazil.
Oof, that's a tough one. Definitely my family, but I think the food. My family first and the food second. Although I'm able to cook some of the stuff here, I just miss the steak, the picanha that we now have found, Cesar, and the pão de queijo. Just some of the food that we have there that we have to somewhat be creative doing it in here. But that's my favorite thing.
What's your go-to meal? Maybe mom's best dish or grandma's best dish from Brazil?
My mom's best dish?
Yeah.
Rice, beef, beans, and an egg.
Okay.
I know. It's like a go-to every day. My dad was the cook in my family. My mom didn't cook as much, but that was that and pão de queijo, which is like a cheese bread. He used to make a homemade one from scratch. It was so delicious.
That sounds really good. So it looks like we're starting to run low on time here. So as we wrap up our time and prepare to get back to the reality that is quarantine, are there any words of advice or encouragement you can give to our viewers at home on how to stay healthy, both mentally and physically?
Honestly, I think it's about the positivity. It's waking up every day and trying to be positive about the situation, not thinking, why me, or why not me? Why can I make the difference? And after hearing Karch and John Gordon speak, that's kind of what I go to now. But it's just the focus on waking up every day, wanting to make a difference, and it could be in your family, it could be at your work, it could be with friends. That positivity can really affect anybody that you are around, and help someone that is maybe having a hard day. I think for me, as I said a little bit with my daughter, and having now that opportunity that I have with her, before, even when all this started, and once we had found out about her disease, it was always that question, like, why her, why us? And now I say, why not us? We get the opportunity to teach her. We had the opportunity to be her mom, and her moms, and we get the opportunity to we're blessed to be the parents that can help her go through things. And I feel the same way right now with this. We're blessed to be in an opportunity to be helping her. We're blessed to be in an opportunity to help our student athletes, even though it's a difficult time. We're all in this together. It's not like one or two people are going through this. We're all going through this together. And yes, some days are harder than others, for sure. And I've had those days too, but I think that if you try to make a difference and keep being positive and saying, why not me to have this opportunity to do something good and be positive, then that's what I do. And that's what we are doing as CSUB volleyball, the athletes, our coaching staff. I think we've been all about that during this quarantine.
Thank you, Coach. Really appreciate you sharing those encouraging words. And as we wrap up our time here, we'd like to say once again, thank you to everybody involved with this, to Coach Melo. Pretty much the only Portuguese phrase I know, obrigado, thank you. Dr. Zalesny, thank you for joining us. All of our generous supporters of the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund, thank you so much for being here tonight. And once again, thank you to our generous sponsor of tonight's Coach's Takeout Talk, Tembler Brewing Company. Local businesses like Tembler are so important to our community and to our economy. We are eagerly awaiting more guidance from officials so that restaurants like Tembler can begin to partially reopen. But until then, make sure you keep on ordering takeout. We will be back with our next Coach's Takeout Talk, which will be featuring Jeremy Beard of the baseball program on Thursday, May 28th. It is our hope that these stories these coaches tell and the impact they are making would inspire you to consider donating to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. For more information about that, please visit gorunners.com/give. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and go Runners!